see all of you here on this very nice day. You've had a wonderful yoga session. And now we'll be talking a bit about Bhakti Yoga. It's very connected to the topic we have for the day, which is happiness and inside job. Because Bhakti Yoga is basically all about happiness. Before we begin, we'll have some kirtan. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shri Ram Jaya Ram Jaya Jaya Ram. 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 Ram Jaya Ram Jaya Jaya Ram. Shri 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 Krishna Govinda Hare Murari. He Nath Narayan Vasudeva. Shri Krishna Govinda Hare Murari. He Nath Narayan Vasudeva. Shri Krishna Govinda Hare Murari. He Nath Narayan Vasudeva. Krishna Govinda Hare Murare. He Nath Narayan Krishna Govinda Hare Murare He Nath Narayana Vasudeva Shri Krishna Govinda Hare Murare He Nath Narayana Vasudeva Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapada Kamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sakrajatam Sahagada Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitanscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. How many of you have heard of or used musk perfume? Yes, many. So I will tell you a story of how the musk perfume comes. And for that we have to make a little journey from Scotland to the Himalayas. There's an animal called the musk deer, in Sanskrit called the Kasturi Mrig. Musk in Sanskrit is called Kasturi. It's a very, very fragrant substance. This animal, like a deer actually, roams in the forests of the Himalayas freely. The musk is actually a secretion from some of the glands that come from its underside. When these secretions happen, they are so overpowering, so overwhelmingly fragrant, so strong, the fragrance spreads everywhere. You can smell it even from a distance. And the Kasturi Mrig, or the musk deer, smells it and is baffled, doesn't understand where this fragrance is coming from. And the fragrance is so heady because it's concentrated musk. And the fragrance is so intoxicating that it's unbearable for this deer. Now the deer is obsessed with trying to find the source of this fragrance. Looks around here and there hoping to sniff at the source. You know, animals gauge everything by smell mostly. So like we gauge everything by seeing and touching, something by taste, but animals mostly gauge things by the sense of smell, very strong. But because this musk smells so powerfully, the deer is not able to determine the exact location of the source of this fragrance. So the deer looks here, looks there, sniffs in this direction and that direction, above and below, but can't seem to locate it. It seems to originate from everywhere. And it runs here and runs there, thinking perhaps, sniffing in the right direction, maybe it's this side. And then the deer runs in the right direction, but doesn't get anywhere near it. It's still as strong. Maybe I've gone in the wrong direction. Maybe it's this way. And the deer runs and runs and runs. and runs to the point of exhaustion when it finally falls down and dies. And then somebody comes along and takes away the musk. The story of the musk deer is actually speaking our story. It's the story of all living beings in this world. The fragrance represents true bliss that we are all seeking, real happiness. We are the musk deer, and our chasing after the fragrance represents our frantic, relentless search for that elusive thing that we call happiness. It seems just within reach, but every time it seems to be in our grasp, it somehow eludes it, slips away, and what we have left is not what we thought it was. It's not happiness, it's something different. It tastes different. Even if it initially tastes nice, but very quickly it turns bitter. The search for happiness in the world is a fundamental search. We can't do without it. Every living being searches for happiness. The ant, the birds, the animals, the fish, the human beings, the king, the ordinary person on the street, we are all seeking that one thing that is happiness. And somehow we don't seem to find it. The poets have written reams and reams about it. Songsters and musicians have composed songs about it. And people have sought it from time immemorial. But where is that thing called happiness? We don't seem to find it. Because we're going here and there. Every conceivable thing that we think will give us happiness, we try and exploit that object or that person for our happiness. It doesn't work. Let me tell you another story. There was a king, and he had a daughter, the princess. She had a very valuable diamond necklace. And one time, as she had placed it somewhere, a bird came and picked it up with its beak and flew away. And the princess was naturally very upset. So the king announced a reward for anyone who could find it. So many people ventured here and there trying to look for that diamond necklace so that they could get a huge reward from the king. And there was one young man who was looking everywhere, and by the arrangement of providence, he happened to come to the banks of a river. And then he looked into the water. Actually, it was a pond, not a river. The waters were still. And as he looked into the river, he happened to see the diamond necklace there. And he said, yes, this is it. I found it. Now I am a wealthy man. Nothing can come in the way of me and real happiness. So he rushes to the place where he sees it in the water, puts his hand straight into the water where he sees the diamond necklace, and pulls out his hand, and there's nothing there but water which slips out of his palm. And he thinks, what happened? And he looks again, the water calms, and he sees the water there. He sees the necklace there again. And again he puts his hands into it, saying, I can't be mistaken this time. It's there for sure. And he grabs it and tries to pull it out. And perhaps all he gets is a little fish. But he doesn't get what he's looking for. And now he's beginning to get a little puzzled. And he looks and wonders why it is that the diamonds are eluding his grasp. And then he waits for the water to become still again so he can see it clearly. There it is. He rubs his eyes and he sees clearly that the diamonds are there. He's not making a mistake. Sure enough, the description is perfect. And again, in goes the hand, and still nothing comes out. Finally, there's an elderly sadhu, a holy man, who's sitting by the side, chuckling away. So the young man looks around and sees the old holy man chuckling and says, "What's the matter? Why are you chuckling like this?" He says, "Just look above." And then he sees that the diamond necklace was actually hanging from the branch of a tree that was just above the water. The young man hadn't been able to see that necklace because it was at a distance up on the branch. The bird had probably left it there. The holy man had seen it, and he was not looking at the water because what the young man was seeing in the water was a reflection of the diamond necklace. It wasn't the real thing, but it really looked like the real thing. The reflection of something looks very much like the original. But of course, we all know that the reflection is not the real thing. If you're looking to eat a nice pizza, and if there's a reflection of the pizza in the mirror, the reflection is not going to satisfy us. We need the real thing. So the moral of the story is that the diamond necklace represents happiness, true happiness. And what we seek within the material world represents the reflection of that diamond necklace in the water of the pond. Happiness does exist. Eternal happiness, true happiness exists, but it doesn't exist where we look for it. We look for happiness in the things of this world, in the relationships and the people of this world, in the experiences of this world, in the phenomena of this world. But we are forever disillusioned and disheartened because happiness doesn't lie there. How can we find something in a place where it doesn't exist? It reminds me of that little joke that we must have all heard from our childhood about a man looking under a lamppost at night for something fervently, and a passerby comes and asks him, "What are you searching for?" "I'm searching for my keys." "Where did you drop the keys?" "I dropped the keys over there." "Well then, if you dropped your keys over there, why are you looking for it under the lamppost?" "Well, because it's dark there and it's light here." So our search for happiness is like that. We've lost something. We've lost real happiness. We've lost understanding of the purpose of life. And we think this is where the lamppost is. This is where the light is because this is what we can see. Our vision is limited. Our eyes and senses are imperfect. So we are guided merely by what our limited and imperfect senses tell us. So we think, therefore, that because this is what I can see, this seems to be so tasty, this seems to be so beautiful, this seems to be so fragrant and melodious, etc. So I want them. So the happiness of this world, according to the holy ancient text, the Bhagavad Gita, is nothing but a contact of the phenomena of this world, technically called the sense objects, with the senses of the body. Our principal knowledge acquiring senses are the sense of sight, the sense of hearing, the sense of smell, the sense of taste, and the sense of touch. It is with these 5 senses that we try to obtain happiness. And therefore each of these senses tries to grasp its corresponding object. So the sense of sight looks for something beautiful. The sense of hearing tries to hear something melodious. The sense of smell tries to go for something fragrant. The sense of taste goes for something that is tasty, delicious. The sense of touch also goes for something that is pleasing. So when these five senses come in contact with the objects of the senses, that gives rise to an experience. That experience we call as pleasure or pain, happiness or distress. That's it. That is the happiness of this world, the so-called happiness of this world. The interaction of the senses with the sense objects. That's it. There is a verse in the Bhagavad Gita where Lord Krishna beautifully encapsulates the futility of such contact of the senses with the sense objects. There's a Sanskrit verse which I will quote. Yahi samsparshaja bhoga dukkhayonaya evate adyantavanta kaunteya nateshu ramate buddha. He says the bhoga or the enjoyment of this world, he doesn't use the word happiness, he uses the word bhoga, which means enjoyment. There is a difference between enjoyment of the world and real happiness. So it's called bhoga. So the bhoga of this world, the enjoyment of this world, which we call pleasure, which we call happiness, is nothing but the contact of the senses with the sense objects. And it has a beginning and it has an end. It is temporary, and those who are wise do not delight in such pleasures, knowing well that there is something far superior, something far better, that cannot be obtained from the objects of the senses, from the world around us, from the external world, from that which is outside of us. And in fact, Lord Krishna in this verse says that such happiness, so-called happiness, is dukkha yoni. It is the mother of pain or misery. So just see, what we conceive of as happiness is not happiness according to our ancient spiritual wisdom. What we think of as happiness is actually the mother of pain. So sometimes I joke in these classes. I give people a little English test and I tell them that, can you please spell pleasure for me? Can you do that? Okay. Now if you were in English class, you get 100% marks. But if you were to answer a test on this verse of the Bhagavad Gita, then you know what the correct spelling would be? The correct spelling would be P-A-I-N. Because Krishna says in this verse that pleasure is the cause of pain. Pleasure is the mother of pain. As a mother gives birth to a child, so the pleasure of this world gives rise to pain. We may smoke a cigarette now, but it's doing its job, the inside job. It's doing its job with the lungs. One time I went to give a lecture in a medical college, and the lecture was in the Department of Anatomy. The professor of that department had arranged the talk, and he wanted to give me a tour of the department before the talk. And he took me to various exhibits within the laboratory where the students are taught things about anatomy. And he also took me to one exhibit which showed lungs which had been exposed. They were only lungs, and they were cut and the insides were exposed. And he said, these are the lungs of a smoker, of a chain smoker. And I could not believe my eyes. It was jet black. It was black as coal. Maybe as black as this. Inside, he said, thick. This is what happens when you smoke. And he said, this man eventually died of lung cancer. So anyway, this is the result of the so-called happiness of this world. Sometimes it's easy for us to perceive it, and sometimes we don't perceive it. But nevertheless, by the eye of superior knowledge, coming from superior sources, like the Bhagavad Gita, we can understand that even if I don't think that the pleasure I'm experiencing now is going to be a cause of pain in the future, we should accept this as a fact and know it's going to come. The reaction will come. Because all attempts at worldly pleasure will give rise to pain eventually. So therefore Lord Krishna says, one who is intelligent doesn't want pain in life. Who wants pain? Who wants misery? No one. So therefore, if we don't want misery and pain, we should avoid the causes of misery and pain, which means to avoid this what we consider pleasure in this world. The bhoga, the contact of the senses with the sense objects. Indiscriminate contact, I mean. We can't exist, we can't survive without some kind of contact. When we were little children, our teachers used to show us the drawings of these three monkeys. One monkey with his eyes closed, one monkey with his ears closed, another monkey with his mouth closed. I don't know whether you had such pictures shown to you in your school days. So the teachers would tell us, that means you should not see anything bad, you should not hear anything bad, you shouldn't speak anything bad. But really, it's not possible in this world to survive and not see anything bad. You're walking in the street, you may see so many things. You may hear so many things. And sometimes we lose our temper and say so many things. Of course we shouldn't, but sometimes we do. So when we look, it's not possible in this world to live, because even to survive we need to eat. So the tongue has to contact, the sense of taste has to contact some food. So we need to also drink some water, we need to have touch, we need to protect the body. So what Lord Krishna is referring to is indiscriminate contact of the senses with the sense objects. It's not that we can make the gratification of the senses completely zero. That's not possible. But the moment we try to gratify the senses with the objective of wanting to lord it over and wanting to be the enjoyer and the proprietor and the controller of everything, when our mind is preoccupied by thoughts of us being the enjoyer, of us thinking that this is for my enjoyment, the goal of life is for me to enjoy as much as I can, to the hilt. This spirit of wanting to enjoy life independently in this world, devoid of any spiritual consciousness, devoid of any consideration of whether it pleases God or not, such indiscriminate pursuit of enjoyment or pleasure is what gives rise to pain. So therefore, people who are intelligent, buddhaha, Krishna says, na teshu ramate, they don't delight in such so-called pleasures. Why? Because they understand there is something superior. The pleasures of this world, of course, are very tempting, very attractive, very tantalizing. All you have to do is walk down the streets and look at the shopping malls and the mannequins and all the other things temptingly dangled before us at the different shops, the different advertising boards. They tell us, just come, just take this product of mine and you'll be happy. And somebody else says, just use this product and you'll be happy. Prabhupada, our founder Acharya, used to joke about cool cigarette. I don't know whether it's still cool to smoke cool, but he would say there is an advertisement for cool and it shows a very handsome man smoking a cigarette. And he would say, here, there's fire at the other end, and they say it's cool. But it's not so cool because it burns up the body. It creates so much damage to the body. So everything around is programmed in such a way to indoctrinate us that this is the way to live. Yes, this is real happiness. It is urging us in the direction of being more and more consumerist. The consumerist culture of the modern times is simply strengthening, reinforcing this mentality of us wanting to be enjoyers. Yes, and it's happening more and more. All the amazing gadgetry, electronic gadgetry that is available in the world, it's bewildering. And the way people are obsessed with electronic gadgets and fancy clothes and so on and so forth, people kill. There are newspaper articles that I've read where people have killed their parents or friends or whatever because they wanted some gadget or some fancy item of clothing. When I traveled to a particular country, I was talking to somebody who mentioned that there is a class of people who are money lenders. And they come from another country and they've settled there. And they lend money to the local people. Now, when you borrow from a bank, what is the interest rate here in Scotland? If you want to borrow money from a bank?
Varies.
Roughly?
4 5%.
4 to 5% a year, right? And do you know what interest rate these money lenders charge them? I could not believe my ears. They were charging 15% interest per month, which is 180% interest annually. And I said, no, you're joking. He said, yes. So how is it that they don't shoot you? You lend them money at 180% annual interest and you've got them for life. And what happens is they'll never do that. Why? Because no one else will lend them money. The banks won't lend them money. Why? Because they don't have security. So what happens is that on the day when they get their salary, which is whatever first of the month or whatever it is, that's the day when the money lenders stand outside the workplace of their debtors. And they wait for the person to come out and they take his money or her money. And within a day, the person is broke. Because with whatever money is left after paying the installment to the money lender, the first thing the person does is to go to the shopping mall and buys the latest boots or shoes or jacket or an iPad or iPhone or whatever, some gadget or something like that. So all the fashion clothing shops and the electronic gadget shops do booming business, especially on these days. And then they have no money to eat for the rest of the month. So what do? Go back to the money lender. And it's all because we think, yes, this is enjoyment. This is life. Just have good clothing, fancy gadgets, a nice flashy car, and live the good life. And this is happiness. But such a deception it is. The modern day world, with its glitter and glamour, the razzle-dazzle materialistic culture of today is simply enticing the people of the world, pulling them in like a whirlpool, sucking them into this conception that happiness means enjoying the external world, enjoying the things of this world. And therefore we want more and more and more of these things and we are never satisfied. And we are caught in that rut, caught in that trap. We can never move. And then we all want to compare ourselves with the others because once we understand that this is what life is all about, we want more of it than the other person. And then we have what we famously call the rat race. Does anyone know the origin of the term rat race and what it really means? Rat race, yes?
It's the wheel that mice or rats run around in, so that by them running round, they're forcing it to move, but they never get anywhere.
Yes. Actually, it's a wheel that's rotating. And there's a rat, or maybe two rats, and they run in the opposite direction. But because the wheel is also moving, and they're moving in the opposite direction, so in order to get anywhere, they have to really run hard. They have to exert themselves very, very much. And then they slide back and then they're running and running and running. At the end of the day, they find they're still in the same place where they started off. So interestingly, the competitive world in which we are in also is called a rat race, which means we don't get anywhere. And yet we are also busy. We're all busy going nowhere. We're all busy not knowing where we want to go, what the goal of our life is, what the purpose of our existence is, what real happiness is. We have no clue. We think it lies in the latest iPhones or the latest clothing or the good food in some big restaurant or something like that. This is actually how the world runs. And as time goes by, one can see the world is getting so much more, shall we say, external. It's getting so much more sensuous. People are getting so much more bodily conscious about their beauty, their physical beauty, about their clothing. They're so much conscious about everything that pertains to this body. But the body is what is precisely the cause of our pain. Because we think we can get happiness through this body, we try, and according to the formula given in the Bhagavad Gita, that so-called pleasure gives us pain. So actually it is the body that is the source of so much pain in our life. And it is for the sake of this body that we struggle so much, being completely unaware of or neglectful of something called the soul, which is our real identity. We are all the spirit soul. That is what the Bhagavad Gita teaches us. That is what all the Vedic scriptures teach us. So the happiness certainly is not to be found in the things of this world. We may get some temporary pleasure. Yes, when you eat some good item of food, something tasty, yes, you feel some pleasure for some time, but then it's gone. So Krishna says, Adyantavanta, which means it has a beginning and an end. Let's say you're very hungry and you sit down to a good meal and every item in the meal is delicious. And you're just in ecstasy thinking, this is so nice, it's so good, so tasty. And you eat and eat and eat and you relish it. But a time comes when you're so full that you don't even want to see or look at food. You don't even want to hear the word food mentioned. Because you're so full, you say, no more, I can't take even a morsel of food anymore. So that's the nature of pleasure in this material world. It's transient, it lasts only for a while. And also the quality of the pleasure, the quantity of the pleasure is very limited, very inferior. But there is something more, there is something deeper, and that is spiritual happiness. By definition, material objects have a beginning and an end. So all the experiences connected with material things will also have a beginning and an end. So material pleasures will end. But spiritual entities have no beginning and no end. They are eternal. We as souls are eternal. Therefore the pleasure or the happiness connected to the soul will also be endless, if only we know how to tap into it. And that's the crux of the matter. The first point is, of course, to be aware that there is something called the soul, that we are indeed the spirit soul and we are not this body. And secondly, to try to know how we can access ourselves. We don't have to access somebody else to get happiness. We need to access ourselves. But when we don't know who we are, then how can we access ourselves? We access the wrong me, the wrong I. We have so many distorted conceptions of the self. But when we learn from the Bhagavad Gita that actually we are an infinitesimally tiny part and parcel of Krishna, the supreme all-attractive being, the source of all creation, and that we have an eternal relationship of love with Krishna. The soul is eternal, Krishna is eternal, and the relationship of love with Krishna is also eternal. And that love resides within our hearts. It's within. So yes, it is an inside job, but we don't know about it. Just like a person who's got a treasure that his grandfather buried in his backyard, but he's really poor, he doesn't know about that treasure chest. And the person is working hard, going here and there, trying to raise a few pounds, barely making ends meet. But once he's made aware, look, you have a treasure chest right in your backyard. Then what does he need to go for scrounging for a few pounds and pence here and there? He has immense wealth at his disposal. So similarly, once we are aware of the treasure house of wealth, the treasure house of happiness that resides within us, in the form of the spiritual devotion to Krishna that is latently existing, then why would we go out looking for little scraps of pleasure and enjoyment here and there in the outside world, at great risk to our mental and physical well-being? Why should we unnecessarily endure so much suffering and misery in this world when we can tap into a practically unlimited ocean of devotional bliss? So Srila Prabhupada, our Acharya, explains that this devotion is latent within the heart of all living entities. So how do we invoke that? How do we bring it out to the surface? And he explains the simplest process is to chant the names of Krishna, who is the eternal